Good evening. Welcome to the Choices Podcast Official.com. We're glad you're here. We're going to have a fun night. We have Dr. Lee with us tonight. We ask that you go on our website, Choices Official Podcast.com, and subscribe to our show. We also ask you to go on Facebook if you'd like to ask questions during the show, which this is a real cool guest, and you're going to want to ask questions because I've already been asking stuff that I read about and do, and I want to make sure I'm headed the right way on my anti-aging and staying young. Anyways, go to Facebook, comment, and on the comment section, write a question if you like. We appreciate all your support out there. We're growing like a weed. We've done 40-something shows, and we really don't care about the growth. It's nice, but if we make a difference in one person's life, then our whole show's worth it, right? That's the way we live our life. Anyways, I'm trying to be a good Christian in my life and learn to love my neighbor and love the Lord with all my heart. And anyways, you got me in my heart early, Carcass John. Carcass.
Yes, sir.
Carcass John, we got Reverend, my friend Denny Brewer since 1972.
Yes, sir.
And we have our guest, Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, say hey. How you doing?
Hello. Good evening. Good evening.
Okay.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Good. Now we're not gonna do like a witness direct examination with you.
Oh, really?
We're gonna first start with
swear in and all that.
No swearing in. We're sitting around a campfire shooting the breeze.
Sounds great.
So Carcass John's going to start us with song lyrics.
Okay.
On something supporting the subject tonight, and he usually fascinates us. And Dr. Lee, he refuses to use my favorite band, Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm trying to be patient with him. So
okay, well, you know what? I think I actually did Fleetwood Mac one week, but I digress. How about Rod Stewart's "Forever Young"?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Okay, and it has a line in there that I didn't really, you sometimes you sing lyrics and you just like it's blasé, you just pass over and you don't really think about it. But I'm going to end with the one lyric that really got me. It says, "May the good Lord be with you down every road in Rome. And may sunshine and happiness surround you when you're far from home. And may you grow to be proud, dignified, and true, and do unto others as they have done unto you. Be courageous and be brave." This is Rod Stewart, by the way.
Yeah.
Be courageous and be brave, and in all your and in my heart you'll always stay forever young, forever young, forever young. And here's the verse that really got me. May good fortune be with you. May your guiding light be strong. Build a stairway to heaven with a prince or a vagabond. And I thought, how often do we like leave people out because we don't think that maybe they're equipped for the job or they're of like mind? And he's basically saying, don't judge that person. Just let everybody participate in building you as a person and building your stairway to heaven. I really thought that was interesting.
What's the whole vagabond deal there, Carcass?
Well, you know what a vagabond is. A vagabond doesn't necessarily have to be not so much a savory character. I mean, a vagabond in the sailing ship days used to be pirates and people who were running from the law, maybe. But I think that those people deserve a chance too. So, and we've talked about how to rehab. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. We do things we shouldn't. But isn't our whole premise about discovering how to get that path back to recovering ourselves and being better people? So, I don't think we rule out anybody, prince or vagabond.
Right.
So, Dr. Lee, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, where should I start? I can go way back in the beginning. I'm an immigrant. I
You
was,
got Reverend all excited. He's
I was,
hollering for this whole wolf pack to come watch the show already.
Hey, I've got my pen and paper
uh-huh.
in hand. Believe me,
Oh my
I'm
God!
taking
Well, this is
notes.
not going to be any kind of a schooling or anything like that. So,
No,
I was born in Korea. Came here when I was a little kid, and grew up in the States, and of course, educated and all that. I'm a I'm obviously a physician, and my practice is mainly focused on, I guess, the things we're going to talk about today. Is I'm a cosmetic surgeon. But the other part that is really, really a heavily emphasis on my part in my practice is in the area of regenerative medicine. It used to be called anti-aging medicine, back about 10 years ago. Now the term has slowly evolved to become, I think, regenerative medicine. People still use terms like functional medicine or integrated medicine. You hear those things kind of commonly, but it kind of means the same thing. And the idea really is to use, mostly non-pharmacological uh, products or medications to really optimize, one's health. And so I really delved really quite a bit into that area. And the main driving force that kind of got me into this was actually fairly selfish. I reached a certain age, and where I started, noticing, things are not working quite as well as they used to when I was a little younger. I thought, what
easy,
is
Dr.
going
Lee.
on?
Easy, easy, easy,
I wonder
easy.
what that's going to feel like. I
This is
wonder
not
what that's
what
going to be like.
this is not what I expected, and so I
Hey,
started
Dr.
doing
Lee.
some research, and that's kind of what really kind of got me into the whole idea of back then, anti-aging medicine, regenerative medicine, hormones, balancing, nutrition, exercise. I've been healthy pretty much my whole life, so I never really taught, about, being obsessed with exercise and nutrition, because I've been fairly healthy, and everything just kind of stayed the way they were. And so, there are people who are very obsessed with these kind of things and what I'm now. But then I just started thinking, if I'm going through this, I can't be alone. And once I started the whole path of becoming board certified and fellowship trained in these areas of sort of quote unquote atypical medicine, if you will, because this is stuff that I didn't learn in medical school. This is all the stuff I learned afterwards. And I realized there's a whole other world of medicine and health that are never taught in traditional medical schools. And I thought, God, what an injustice this is. So I literally went back to medical school in many ways. I spent many years.
What medical school did you go to?
I went to Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if you
Cool.
know what that is, but I'm sure you know Cleveland.
Yeah, I've
Case
had
Western
cases
Reserve.
in Cleveland.
I'm sorry?
I had a case in Cleveland recently.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So, back when I was going to school, this was like, several years after, the whole thing with Cuyahoga River burning and whatever. Cleveland was down in the pits. And now it's actually a very nice city. They have the baseball, stadium built and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, et cetera, and it's cleaned up. Very nice. But so that's when I went to school. I went there, for music, and then ended up getting a degree in engineering, and then I worked as an engineer for a few years, and then went to medical school. But so putting all that together, I realized this is a whole nother path of my professional life, and so now I kind of balance both. And my philosophy in medicine is mind and body. The lyric that you read, Dr. Sean, I mean, that kind of really hits home. I love that song because, when I listen to it, I listen to the lyric and I think, God, it really is very simple, but very profound. And it's talking about the balance between the mind and body and the spirit, and how you harness that spiritual energy to build the stairway to heaven. That this is kind of, what a lot of regenerative medicine is really balancing the spirit and the mind and the body. So that's the journey that I'm in, both personally and as a professional.
I think I'm right there. I'm right there with you, Doc. I mean, that's mind, body, and soul. I work hard on it.
Yeah.
Journaling and meditating and working out.
Sure.
So what would you want to tell our viewers that if someone's sitting out there, they're out of shape, they like to drink like 3 times a week, probably too much. But they are like, you know what? Maybe you're right. I need to start getting in shape. What would you tell them to do? First thing
is if they're really, really serious about it, first thing is go see a reputable doctor, get some testing done, and find out where you are. Where
The
is your
blood
base?
testing. The blood testing.
Well, the blood, yeah, there's obviously blood testing. There's a whole panel that I use when I, bring a new patient in, and it's nothing that extensive. Your basic blood tests about cholesterol and all those kind of things, but your hormone levels, certain vitamins, minerals. I mean, you really get a pretty comprehensive picture. Your thyroid levels, all those kind of things to get an idea where you are. Because without knowing where you're starting, it's kind of hard to figure out what your goals are. So start there, and then. And if you can have a good relationship with, really reputable and capable functional medicine, regenerative medicine doctor, they'll start to lead you and talk about the other aspects. It's not even just taking vitamins and just taking hormones. I'm working on in fact, I had this practice philosophy for many years, but actually in the process of writing a book on it. It's called the Diamond Matrix, and it's actually 7 points of health care, wellness, if you will, that are completely interrelated. And I kind of formed it into a three-dimensional diamond picture, if you will, that completely interrelate all the different parts. And the 7 parts are, number one, nutrition, because we all talk about eating and food. And then second part is lifestyle, because you can eat well, but if you sit around and like a couch potato, that food that you eat doesn't really do much good. And the other part is I call emotional and spiritual health. And your body and your concept of who you are, what you are, self-identity, relationship with friends and family and neighbors and the greater world. That balance is very, very important. You have to feel comfortable in your world, so to speak. And the other part is I call regenerative medicine, because there's a lot of technical advances in regenerative medicine, like stem cells and exosomes and the kind of stuff that used to be very, very specialized, but now it's almost very commonplace now. And those kind of things form a sort of a foundational points. And then there's something called brain health, which is completely different than emotional health. These are kind of goes into people with traumatic brain injury. We talk about athletes all the time, right?
Yes.
A lot of
Yes.
veterans.
We could talk. Dr. Lee, we could talk about the brain health.
Well, we can have a whole segment just on brain health alone. I mean, that is
okay. Let me interrupt you here.
Sure.
So I'm doing a TED Talk on this.
Oh, okay, great.
On the brain, because of addiction and alcoholism and the effect it has on the brain.
Yes.
And the fact that if you're totally blacked out, you cannot have the mens rea to commit an offense, and how it's not scientifically possible.
Yes.
Even though policy tells us we need to punish somebody, right? It's not scientifically possible for somebody in that condition to have the necessary mens rea. That means knowingly, intentionally, recklessly, or whatever, to commit an offense.
Right.
And it all goes to the brain. So I'm working with Texas Tech, with the medical school and the law school to work on it with me. And
I'd love to work with you on that. That sounds really interesting.
It is interesting because the brain health is very, very important. And so the dopamine levels and everything that's in the brain, do you work on how people can manage dopamine levels naturally? Or
Oh yeah, completely. So there are different ways. I used to have a actually medical imaging device in my office that actually looked at functionality of the brain in the various different areas. Brain is a very complicated organ. It's not just one thing. I mean, it's made up of many different segments internally that all work together, and everything it does is all interrelated. One part squirts out a little hormone that affects another part. Just to make it simple, and you got all these little synapses where electricity is going around a million times a second. And so when you have any kind of a trauma anywhere, be it emotional trauma, physical trauma, or a combination of both, spiritual trauma, that affects the functionality of the brain. It doesn't have to be just pure physical trauma, and it's interrelationship. You can have a physical trauma that affects the emotional part of it, but then the emotional part accentuates and makes the physical trauma even worse, and vice versa. So a lot of these things we work with, certainly the athletes and certainly veterans who come back from war and injury and the kind of things they have to go through, And their brains are literally physically damaged, but at the same time functionally they're damaged because of that. And then what you just talked about, what people do because of a damaged brain, that's a really interesting area. I mean, obviously I'm not a lawyer, so I haven't thought about it that way in terms of from a criminal perspective, but certainly in terms of your daily functionality and relationships, people may say things and maybe regret later because the brain is not functioning properly. They may lose certain level of filter and facility of communication. And it's like, okay, well, the brain's damaged, so they're not speaking and the way they normally should be, and vice versa. So a lot of things like that can happen. But brain function is at the bottom of the pyramid, because I think I use that as a foundation of all things. And if you look at the top, go ahead.
So how do we keep the brain healthy? What natural ways can we use to keep the
Oh my
brain
God. Well, the thing is, those things I was telling you about, they're all interconnected. Obviously nutrition is critical. If you eat, junk and tons of alcohol, drugs, of course, that is bad nutrition. That's going to have a direct effect on the brain. Lifestyle, exercise. We already know how exercise affects the brain, both positively and negatively, right? Usually, if you do it properly, it has a very, very important positive effect on the brain itself. But if you do the wrong things, it can negatively affect emotional health. I mean, I just literally talked about it. If you have a calm emotional balance, that has direct effect on the brain, because that emotional status affects the brain to release certain different kind of hormones, balance the hormones asymmetrically, etc. Okay. And then the regenerative medicine I was just telling you about, we have different things like exosomes and stem cells that literally have direct chemical effect on the brain by crossing the blood-brain barrier and affect the neurons themselves to heal and get better. So
is that the patch you're talking about?
You mean like the lifestyle patch or something?
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, that's a lot of science in that. I'm not as familiar with it as I should be. I have it. I've used it myself and things like that. There's a lot of very important benefit from that that LifeWave patch. Very interesting science. So those are other things. But there's a lot of things. You don't have to take all these drugs. I mean, all these drugs that have been developed for psychotropic.
Boy, I bet you like seeing Kennedy coming in.
Oh my
you?
God, you're kidding. I mean, this is one of my biggest peeves. Just have a little digression. Pharma makes billions and billions and billions of dollars. Just one area, depression. Okay. You know how many antidepressants we have? I mean, there's so many different antidepressants. So many people in our country and around the world are on antidepressants. What's the kicker is, and this is a part of the medical establishment too, which has an unfortunate part in it. Depression is not a diagnosis. People don't realize that. Depression is a symptom. Okay, and I'm sure you work in a legal sense. Don't you just talked about people have different intentions depending on the level of damage the brain has, but depression is a symptom. It's not a diagnosis. So it actually saying a part of the brain is out of balance, and it's creating the symptom of depression. So instead of trying to figure out what part of the brain is causing the symptom of depression, which is how you treat the problem, they treat the symptom.
God, that's so amazing.
Okay,
so how many different antidepressants are there?
Oh my God, I can't even count. I mean, there are probably 20, 30 different ones, and they got different psychotropic ones.
But they don't go to what you're saying. They don't go to the root of the cause and effect of the problem.
It's like okay, we're all athletes. We've done different things. So if you go and run around and do something, your knee hurts. All of a sudden, oh my God, my knee's hurting. Okay, something caused the pain, but instead of figuring out what's causing the knee pain, you treat the pain by taking aspirins and NSAIDs and steroids. Well, knee's still hurting. Well, okay, I'm going to take more medicine. Well, what's causing it? I don't know. My knee's hurting. So knee pain is the diagnosis, and you're treating the diagnosis, right? Instead of saying, I have a little, hairline fracture on my leg. That's what's causing the knee pain. Well, if you treat the hairline fracture, which is the cause of the pain, then the pain will go away. Instead of that, we're treating the pain forever and never delving into the actual cause of pain. And same thing's happening with the brain. We're treating depression, never the cause of depression. So people
want to keep selling the pills.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's the same as what was that family's name? Schachter.
Mm-hmm.
On the opioids out of New York. The doctors that sold all the hydrocodone and got people hooked on it everywhere.
Yeah.
Thinking that there was a pain killer, and it wasn't. It was addiction.
Well, don't hospitals and big pharma need victims
Well,
to
they're
make money?
creating their own victims. This is
Well,
what's
and that's what I'm saying is I had a major cardiac event,
Mhm.
and my doctor, who was much like you, said, "What is your expectation of me?" And I said, "I want you to fix me, not treat me."
Mhm.
And he said, "Well, do you know what you're asking?" And I said, "I know exactly what I'm asking. I don't want to be on medication the rest of my life."
Right.
And is that possible, or is it pie in the sky? Is it? And fortunately, I'm not on medication because he fixed the problem,
Exactly.
and there was touch and go parts of that,
Yeah,
but he
yeah.
fixed the problem, as you mentioned, and not just treated the symptoms.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
to your point, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Dr. Lee, you got to talk about the vaccine and how you got around it and worked around it and saved people's lives
Yeah.
while the Kool-Aid was being sold.
Yeah. Well, I have a bit of a rebellious streak in my personality.
Well, you fit on a podcast perfectly because we're all rebellious.
I'm not rebellious, Brett.
Oh, yeah. Carcass is
So anyway,
Redwood's
when
not
this
rebellious.
edict came down saying, "Oh, you got to have this, you got to have that," and I said, "Wow!" And I thought, "Wow, they came up with this vaccine awfully fast." Because vaccines take years to develop. I mean, you have to understand the pathogen and all the different mechanisms, how things work before you can actually develop pathogens. Like how in 6 months they came up with this thing. This is unbelievable. That already just raised my suspicion a little bit. Then I started looking into the actual component of the vaccine. I thought this is not a vaccine. This is a drug. What they created really, some people call it bioweapon or whatever. I don't want to get into all that kind of stuff. But seriously, the components of this material really had nothing to do with actually eradicating and fighting the virus. I mean, you really can't fight the viruses anyway. Viruses mutate, and you kill one, and another thing mutates, and it pops up again. I mean, it really is. It's a very, very difficult thing to do, and to create a natural defense system of something that's been around thousands of years. The coronavirus is nothing new. Okay, what they created in the lab to make it stronger, that's new. But the natural coronavirus has been around thousands of years. We have natural defenses against natural, the coronaviruses. It mutates all the time. But anyway, so it's nothing, So when I started reading about this, it was like, this is poison. I mean, this is horrendous stuff. I thought, oh my God, I can't, in good conscience, recommend this to my patients. I certainly wouldn't take it. And I can't turn around and say, oh, yeah, it's good for you, good for you. And while myself was like, oh my God, this is junk. I wouldn't give it to anybody. So it's not because, at that time, you say anything against the vaccine, you're maligned and you're thrown in jail and people come after you. So I kept it very quiet. But, patients that I dealt with were really by and large, were of similar thought pattern as I am. So they couldn't really understood and the kind of approach that I was using to try to help them. And, I read the different studies. When ivermectin came out, I read about ivermectin and the properties that ivermectin has against different viruses, certainly hydroxychloroquine. I mean, many, 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 many articles. And now I'm delving into the anti-cancer properties of ivermectin. It's an amazing drug. This is one of the best inventions humans made, this drug ever. It won the Nobel Prize for medicine.
Wow.
It's
Dr.
one of the
Lee,
best drugs. So
could I ask you? So
sure.
The COVID jab.
Mhm.
Number one, I'd like to ask about the negative effects, but on the positive side, does it do anything?
Well, I mean, not really. I think people who kind of got something out of it, quote unquote, didn't get the COVID, they probably had pretty strong defenses themselves. And what the vaccine, quote unquote, vaccine does, it actually kind of neutralizes the T cells. It actually makes your own system work against itself. So you actually end up creating inflammation and autoimmune disease in your own body. That's the end effect of that quote unquote vaccine. So all the spike proteins that was in there, the mRNA, actually was reprogramming your cells to actually end up working against you. That's why we have so many people with autoimmune problems, the cardiomyopathies, vasculitis, and all those kind of things. And look at if you look at the statistics since the vaccine was propagated, the number of cancers and heart disease and even the brain problems. I mean, everything across the spectrum went up I mean, the numbers are astounding. And I have it somewhere on my phone. I had a chart somebody posted that I looked at. I mean, even cancer went up like 3,000%. I mean, this is unconscionable. This is literally is
unbelievable.
I don't want to go into that.
You don't hear about it enough in the news at all, really, do you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
You don't hear about it in the news.
Oh well, I mean, look who's providing the news. So you're not going to hear this from CNN or MSNBC. I mean, they're the ones who are propagating, and for literally
they still
they're still pro-vaccine, pro-this. Look at all the questions
mask.
Yeah, look at all the questions that RFK went through, about the vaccines. I mean, all the stuff they talked about for an hour was about the vaccine. I mean, it was crazy. So everybody drank the Kool-Aid, and this is the mainstream thing. And then, if you're in the under the guise or thumb of the big pharma, like a lot of the senators who got millions of dollars from big pharma, of course they have to defend the vaccine because this is how the big pharma, And if you look at the number of
big pharma is paying them too.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah, of course, even though they deny it, that they are being paid. And then also you look at the profit that the pharma, the Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and the other one, Moderna, made, and the billions and the bonuses that the CEOs made. I mean, it's just unconscionable what they did.
If they were really in for the common good, they wouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll maybe offline we can talk about all the rabbit holes.
So look, let me ask you this. Yeah. You ready?
Yes.
So I come to you, my triglycerides a little bit high.
Yeah.
My vitamin D stays a little bit low.
Yeah.
My hormone level's probably a little bit low.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And you look at my panel and say, here's the thing, here's what we can do. First of all, you need to be working out. So I work out, play tennis twice a week, and I spin 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, wow. Great.
So I'm eating better.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do as far as my blood and my brain health? If I came to you and my blood levels are looking a little bit like that, what would you do? Would you put like supplements together or?
Well, that would be part of it, depending on what you're in,
Yeah, say my vitamin D's low or whatever kind of supplement you have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so let's just have a hypothetical, the cholesterol. Yeah. Most people, cholesterol is, up a little bit, and triglycerides, this and that. So really depends on the level of abnormality, let's say. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about cholesterol is the mother of all hormones. Okay. So our primary hormones, are the 3 major ones, right? Testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. So without cholesterol, our bodies cannot make any of those. Okay. That's just it. Cholesterol breaks down to pregnenolone, which divides into different pathways that create testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. So the kicker is the big pharma has, I think, brainwashed the doctors to think, oh my God, if your patients have cholesterol over 200, you got to put them on statins. This is the AMA, dogma. And if you have a patient who has a cholesterol of 250 or 300, oh my God, you're a horrible doctor because your patient's going to die. Well, so there are doctors who would suppress their male and female patients' cholesterol down to 150. They think I'm a champ because I beat cholesterol. Well, all of a sudden, all these people start having hormone problems because they can't make any testosterone. Okay, they can't make estrogen. They become brittle. Osteoporosis, your brain starts to go because your testosterone is so low. Well, they don't care about that because all they see is the cholesterol. My patient's cholesterol is 120. Oh my God, I'm a super doc because I know how to beat cholesterol. And they're all statins. Statins have their own set of problems. And so, but this is how this mythology of cholesterol has been propagated. So for me, cholesterol by itself doesn't mean anything. Okay, if your cholesterol is 250, okay, what other factors do you have? Is your HDL, HDL and LDL? That's a whole other thing we can talk about. We can sit down and talk about every one of these things for hours. What is the balance thereof? Okay, and what is your triglyceride? And what is your diet? And how? When was the lab taken? Did you eat a big hamburger steak before you went to get the lab? Well, if you have a big pizza and you go get a lab next day, your triglyceride is going to go up because you ate a bunch of fat. That's not a true picture. So all those kind of things come into play. But let's say those things are bad. So I would actually look at your diet. I would look at your hormone levels. The whole panel. Everybody gets a full hormone panel, and start looking at the overall picture. What is your thyroid level? Is your thyroid low? Is the thyroid balanced? Vitamin D, different minerals, all those kind of things, and then put together a sort of a game plan. And what is your goal? What are your main symptoms? Okay, is it depression? Is it brain fog? Is it sexual dysfunction? Are you gaining weight and can't lose weight? And what is the main reason you're coming to see me? And we'll kind of attack it from that point of view. And the reason the Diamond Matrix was created was that you can enter the system from any one of those points. Those are the other points that I didn't mention is the aesthetic health up on the top. And as you feel better, you want to start looking better. And in the center of the diamond, the core of the diamond is sexual health. Okay, that is the center, and that is the main driving force behind all of this. And everything is interconnected. Okay, so there's a line between every one of those points. So if you can kind of picture in mind 4 corners of the diamond, okay, you got nutrition, lifestyle, emotional health, and regenerative medicine. That forms a 4 corner. And the bottom corner is the brain health, and on the top is aesthetic medicine, aesthetic health, right? And then if you go straight into the middle of the diamond is brain health. Okay, so 4 corners, top, bottom, center. So that's a 3-dimensional structure, and every one of them has a line connected to each other. Okay, and so sexual health gets input from everything. Okay, if you have a poor brain, you're not going to be very sexually competent or active. If you're emotionally deficient and depressed and anxiety or whatever, sex is not going to do very well. And obviously, if you're, really overweight and unhealthy, sexual function is going to go down too. So by optimizing your sexual health, you have to actually create a healthy person to optimize sexual health. So that's kind of how I approach it. And all of my patients get a homework. They all get a homework of giving me a 2 weeks of what I call food diary. And everybody knows what that is. I literally tell them, I want a list of everything, literally a drop of water. I drank, one bottle of water. I had this, I had that, I had a toast, I have this, I had, 5 McDonald's French fries, or I don't care what it is, everything in your mouth, I want you to write down to it with as much detail as possible. People usually do 2, 3, 4 days of it. They stop because people can't do much more than that. But even that gives me a picture of what they do. Everybody has, toast with, butter and sweets, and then they have a Pop-Tarts for lunch, and peanut butter and jelly. They all have Diet Coke.
Dr. Lee, don't even say that word, Pop-Tart. I ain't had a Pop-Tart so long. Don't say gingerbread cookies.
Okay.
Pop-Tart, Oreos.
I'm not supposed to say that.
No, I love them.
Well, it's okay. So anyway, so that kind of gives me a picture, and from there we start planning how we're going to attack, and to reach your goal. And so it really is a comprehensive, a picture of this is what we're starting.
I love that.
These are the
and in the middle of it, you throw a little bit of plastic surgery in.
Yeah, well, that's time for that comes. It's like when you start to feel better, you're gonna naturally want to come back.
I love you. I think you're cool beans because you're approaching everything the way that I think that we promote on our show. Would you guys agree with that?
Oh yeah.
Carcass?
Well, I think that there's not a pill for, there's no all at once in life or health or anything, and there's not a magic pill that you can take to be more handsome or better looking or to be muscular or whatever. I mean,
I'm working on that.
Yeah, well, good. I can't wait. I'll be your guinea pig.
Here's something too, Dr. Lee.
Yeah.
So I've done some of that blood work and some of the supplements. I don't like taking 5 supplements a day swallowing.
Right.
I have a hard time with that. Is there a liquid or something that you can?
Yeah, there are a lot of things actually are made in liquid form or powder form. You can use that. I mean, some are just pills, and you're gonna have to kind of figure that out. But we take all that into consideration. I mean, I don't want people taking 35, 40 pills.
A pill gets stuck in my throat. Next thing you know, I'm coughing it. I'm from South Irving. These North Irving guys, they get injections or whatever. I'm having to get this old pill that sticks in my throat.
That was directed at me, Dr. Lee.
slap the back of my head,
can
shoot the pill back out, let my dog have it.
Hey, could I ask a general question?
Sure.
And I know this, it varies depending on the person, but generally speaking, the amount of exercise that you recommend generally, I mean, I'm hearing all different things now. Now I'm hearing, well, if you work out every day, if you work out for an hour, you really don't need to work out that much. What would you say about that, Dr. Lee?
Well, I mean, that's
somebody who's of mature age.
Yeah, that's a tough question because everybody's status is different. Okay, but my personal philosophy about exercise is if you over-exercise, you actually start destroying your body. And we're a biological mechanism, so exercise is a form of stress. Okay, when you sit there and work out and run and you're tearing muscle, you're stressing the ligaments, working on your joints, you're creating stress for the benefit of your body to rebuild, to fix the stress. Let's say if you run a marathon, there's a tremendous amount of damage to all your muscles, and not only the joints and whatever, the muscles get torn up. Metabolically, your body changes and whatever. That's the sort of far end of the spectrum. But even if you do, like you said, cycling for 35, 40 minutes, there are tears in your quadriceps and gluteal muscles and all the muscles you use to do cycling. And when you rest, your body tends to, goes back and repairs those micro damage. That's how you rebuild muscle and regenerate. So your body needs time to do that. You can't just sit there and do that and then, next day do something even crazier because your body hasn't had a chance to regenerate itself, so to speak. Okay. Depending on your current status of physical fitness in terms of what is your aerobic capacity, how much can you lift, how much can you walk, we figure out a plan. Okay, this is where you are. I know you want to run a marathon in 2 years, but you can't do that now. Let's figure out how to go to that point. Or is even a marathon even a possibility for you? But regardless, so we figure out a level of where you are, and then the kind of the goal that you may have, and figure out what is a combination of different things. Anything from even just plain old walking. Even if you walk a mile, walk 2 miles, just do slow pace. It doesn't matter. If it takes you an hour, go and do that. And as you get more fit and stronger, the time will naturally go down because that's how we are. And then if you want to start adding, some calisthenics, just good old push-ups, jumping jacks. I mean, something really simple, even just using your arms and lifting your arms and, stressing and whatever. If you do that, 5-10 minutes a day, that alone will get your, heart rate up. You'll start breathing a little heavier. So some people are at that level of fitness. For people who are a little bit more advanced, like you, Brett, you lift and you exercise, you're a little bit more capable. It's okay. So this is where you are. Let's see how far we can do. But in terms of really just overstressing the different parts of the body and not letting it recover, that's where you run into danger, especially if you're a little bit older, and as we age, our recovery rate decreases and it's not as robust. And I didn't talk about stem cells, but our natural stem cells go down from, let's say, from here when you're born to maybe 15%, if you're lucky, around age 60. And if you get into age 70 and even older, the level of stem cells in your bone marrow is down to maybe 5%. So the stem cells are the cells that go and repair the damage. So as we get older, the reason it takes longer to recover and heal, maybe not even really heal, because the amount of stem cells we have in our body is just not enough. Okay, it's like having a big, huge fire. You don't have enough water. What we just went through in California. If you have a small fire on the side, you throw up, a glass of water and fire goes out. If you have a room full of fire, that glass of water is not going to do enough. So something similar. If your body is damaged to a point, you don't have enough stem cells, you just cannot recover. So I take all those things into consideration and figure out, okay, this is where you are. Let's start here. Let's slowly build. Let's try to reach this milestone. If you have a weight problem, this is where you are. Let's try to lose, 10, 15, 20 pounds over the last 6 months. And, I use GLP-1s. It's very effective. Of course, exercise and diet that's why the food diet becomes critical, because it's a multifactorial approach. It's not just eat less. That doesn't work. That puts you in a starvation cycle, and that's something completely crazy to your metabolism. It actually works against you. So you have to really figure out how to balance all those different pieces. So actually bring your weight down in a healthy manner Okay. So when you lose 20 pounds, you'll still be healthy to enjoy the weight and keep it off. So this is part of, the constant feedback, constant teaching my patients to say, the reason I want you to do this is for these reasons. I always give them a reason why I'm saying something, not just go and do this. It means
Right.
nothing to people. Okay.
So like the stem cell reduction,
Mhm.
there's patches out there now. Do you direct your patients on the right patch to use, or how do
No,
you?
not really. I mean, the patches are supposed to quote unquote stimulate stem cells, but I haven't seen
Mhm.
any scientific data on exactly how
That's-
much stem cells are increased because of those patches.
See, there's
and
another little voodoo thing there.
Well, I
There's
don't want to say that because I think it's it's a very interesting device, but I don't know as much about it as I should. But when I heard about stem cell reactivation, it may stimulate stem cell release from the body, but if your stem cell store is poor to begin with, it's not going to create new stem cells. So, but you need releasing of stem cells happen naturally. If you stress your body's going to release stem cells. The question has to do with how much is in there.
right.
If you have only this
Can you
much
get
left,
more in there, Dr. Lee?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a
Is
good
there a way to
question.
get more in there? Can I get some more stem cells?
Unfortunately, you can't create more stem cells. What's interesting, there are two different stores of stem cells. Okay, one is the bone marrow. That's the primary release of stem cells. But believe it or not, our fat cells are great storage of stem cells. Fat cells store 10 times more stem cells than bone marrow.
There you go.
So
Okay.
when I do
that.
stem cell treatments, actually, I can actually harvest fat and get the stem cells from fat,
Huh.
and then get it back into your body. So
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man. Would you take the fat? Would you keep the fat out while you're doing that?
Well, I mean, when you can aspirate the fat, and then you can get a little mini liposuction, but you don't need that much fat to get the stem cells out.
Dr. Lee, how do our viewers get hold of you? How do they find you?
Well, I suppose I can go on my website.
What's your website address?
It's called my practice name is Advanced Surgical Arts. So the website is ADV, just like advanced, advsurgicalarts.com.
I love that. Surgical arts.
Yeah, advsurgicalarts.com.
See, you know what I like about you, dog?
Yeah.
Besides, you can't grow whiskers either, and I can't either because I'm American Indian.
We got enough for everybody. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. You're practicing medicine as an art.
Well, I try to.
Well, I think a lot of that's gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
I hope
same
it's
with,
coming back.
huh?
I hope it's coming back. I mean,
Me too.
I hope
You know,
so.
well, I have my own opinions on that because I represent a lot of doctors, Dini and I do, and they've got all these administrators now that aren't doctors that don't know what they're doing but cutting costs when they should continue to have the doctors managing doctors, right?
Mhm.
So that you know that the right amount of art still being put in for the patients. We got to get that fixed.
Yeah.
It's broken.
Yeah. It's the art behind, with art based on science. I mean,
See, that's what practicing law is.
yeah.
It's an art.
Yeah, it is.
And I like to do the art part,
and Dr. Lee, you said something, I think it applies to having a lawyer at hand. And you said, have a doctor that knows you, knows your body.
yes,
Mhm.
that's exactly what
you
he's
don't
talking
want to
about.
wait until the heart attack.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what he does though, it's so much more detailed with the panel of testing he does on the initial testing than what you get at the doctor's office.
Yeah.
They go in there, throw you in there because they're going to bill it, and they're going to see your cholesterol's high, your triglycerides are doing okay, but he's going to sit there and go, "Hey, let's look at this." They don't do your hormones. That's a whole nother group of testing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying, let's do the panels. Let's look at where you are, and you get not aggressive, but you take accountability on managing your health.
Right. Yeah.
Dr. Lee, I think you're out there on the edge. I mean, you're doing it right. I believe 100%.
Me too.
I have two daughters in their 30s, and I'm telling you, it's another world, man. They read up on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're careful about what my grandkids get fed.
Yes.
You know, how much screen time they have, which is actually very little
Yes.
as they're young. And you know, from vaccines, I mean, they do their homework.
Yeah.
So and I think we're seeing these youngsters, they are figuring out something's wrong here, and there's a better way to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think some of the statistics came out during RFK's, hearing. I mean, we are 4% of the population in the world, but we have 75% of chronic diseases, and we produce 75% of drugs around the world, but we're still the sickest. Of the developed countries, we are the sickest. I mean, it's like, how do these things come about? This got to be, and nobody's looking at it and thinking, why is this happening?
And then, I mean, I love like corn. Well, I mean, I'm talking, really, it's unhealthy to eat corn.
Well, because it's been modified. It's been genetically modified. Yeah.
It's infuriating, really.
Yeah. It's not the corn that, we as back in, 10, 20,000, 100,000 years ago, biologically, the DNA in corn is really incompatible with our bodies because it's been so modified. And that's the amazing thing. And I mean, we could spend a whole nother, segment on just food.
Oh, we're going to have you back.
Yeah.
We're going to have you back.
Just
I love
food
it.
alone, we can spend just like hours talking about the kind of bad food.
Oh my gosh.
And
well, man, keep doing it, Dr. Lee. It's awesome, man. I'll be in to see you next week.
Okay.
Hey, Dr. Lee, I got your cell phone, Dr. Lee.
Yes. That sounds good. You can reach me.
My wife and I are going to come see you. She's a breast cancer survivor.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm working on some very interesting approaches in cancer as well that are.
It's interesting because there's not a doctor that gets to see my wife unless they go through me.
Yeah. Good.
And
that's great.
And lately, I've been asking some hard questions on why are we checking this box? I want to come to bring her to see you.
Sure. I'll be honored. I'll be honored. Yeah. To take
hey, Carcass John.
Yes, sir.
Dude, listen, I know you're soon to retire and I know what your background is, but if you can start harvesting genetically unmodified food, you'd be so rich, dude.
Oh my God.
Well, here's the deal. I sent in my letter.
That's true.
Telling everyone that I'm retiring.
Good.
And I filed for Social Security.
Wow.
Good.
And I know I've talked with one of the kids and they want to do a garden. So
there you go.
Growing up, Dr. Lee, just an FYI, we ground our own wheat for bread. We ate out of the garden and we did those types of things. So we were kind of, in a way, people thought we were survivalists or whatever. We had food storage, we canned, we did all that type of thing. But, it just made good sense that, and in fact, my daughter, who I've been texting saying, you've got to check this guy out because she's a fitness guru.
Okay.
And Brett knows her and has met her and is aware of her fitness levels. And but she is always fine tuning the nutrition side of things to feed everything else, to your point.
Yeah.
And so I think she'll find you very, very interesting. She has some nagging injuries and, maybe it's a nutritional thing. And of course, as you say, when one aspect of our pyramid is, or our 3D triangle or 5D triangle is not right, it affects everything else.
That's right.
And I see that just because I look at her as her life from a distance, and I'm starting to see it in my own. So I've been taking feverish notes, and I think we should have you back because
absolutely.
Just the nutrition, just the food level
man,
thing is interesting to me. And if for
it's
nothing
all about
else,
choices. What you're talking about is all about choices.
It's perfect. Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait for your book because I will buy it and I will read
well,
it.
thank you.
Profoundly.
Well, obviously, Brett, Tammy, so she's my publisher.
I got it.
Yeah.
Hey,
getting that together.
So, Dr. Lee.
Yes.
We always like to end our show with a quote. What's your favorite quote?
Oh my God! You should have given me a heads up.
How about this one? Can I help you?
Yeah.
When I was a motivational speaker, we had all the way through the training, 3 days. It would be, you got to take care of yourself or you take care of anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it
that's
starts with
great. Yeah.
it starts with exactly what you're talking about. It's accountability to yourself,
Yeah.
to take care of yourself and get healthy and manage your life
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
all 7 facets.
Yes.
I love that.
Agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah.
Oh, good, because we'll talk tomorrow, and I want to talk about putting you on the show again.
Okay. Well,
Don't
sounds
y'all
great.
have me
Oh,
back?
Thank you.
Denny, he's gonna do my eyelids.
I listen. I need that too.
I know.
I,
You want people to see your eyes? You don't
I'm
want to
going
look all
down as is.
baggy?
My dad turned 88 yesterday, and he still looks like he could pass for 50.
Oh my
There
God,
you
that's
go.
great. That's fantastic.
So I'm
You
hoping
got good
I'm not
genes.
for that genetic.
You got great genes. Good for you.
Dr. Lee, I hope you've enjoyed your time with
Oh,
us.
this was fantastic. Thank you. I hope I didn't rattle on too much.
No, it's
No,
like
not
sitting
at
around
all.
the fire with you talking good stuff about real things that matter to us,
Yeah.
man. I'm tired of getting Kool-Aid shoved down my throat.
Yeah.
That's not the right Kool-Aid I need to be drinking.
Yeah. No, I try to de-Kool-Aid people.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to come see you.
Sounds great.
Hey, we're going to use me and my wife as a project. And
Okay.
we'll continue it through the podcast.
That sounds great.
All right.
All right.
Y'all
Awesome.
have a good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Dr.
Thank
Lee.
you.
Lee.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you.
Have a good night, Dr. Lee. You're awesome,
care.
man.
Thank you very much.
Bless you for staying,
All right.
keeping the art in your practice.
Yeah, man.
Okay. See you next time.
Bye.